Well, hello, hello. We're back again for another Wet Ink Wednesday, and I don't. There's no surprise. You saw it in the thumbnail. I'm with Brandon Ayton. Hey, Brandon.
Hi, Matt.
We're gonna do our quarterly report that we have been doing, and start a Q2. March is. We're recording this up right at the end of March. April is here. Here we are. Oh, uh, I don't know. We were talking before about what we're going to talk about, and like in some respects, like nothing has happened, quote unquote, the last 3 months. But then
Nothing.
right, but then also a lot has happened in the last 3 months. So you know, I don't know. We're gonna kind of try to navigate our way through all of that. Uh,
Yeah, see, that is a very pregnant nothing.
well, what I mean is that like when we were talking 3 months ago, like we had like Herd was in production. It was like the files were some of them were sent to the printer and some of them were being finalized. And then like same with Garbage and Glory and the card deck and like the we were still moving through final layout changes and stuff like that. So like it was in manufacturing. It was being
Yeah.
the writing is done. The but like 3 months later, it's like all of those things are like what did you say is like you estimate like all of the stuff that we have in production is now like there's like 99% of all of those file
Oh, yeah.
exchanges and like they're going to go to print with them is done for three different projects and then
Right.
things will be rolling off the factory soon. So like that's what I mean by like nothing, quote unquote, nothing has happened is like there's still it's still being produced. Like it is in
Oh, yeah.
process, but it is a process that takes this whole time.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
when you say like, "Oh, it's in production." Oh, it's still in production, and it was like, "Yes," but like all of the steps in like making something for creatively, there's just as many or more steps from like in production to in production, right? Like
right.
each one of those, yeah, that is a
Well,
big chunk that has like a billion different sub steps. Yeah, and
right.
that's
And
that's what we're here to talk about.
actually rolling out of manufacturing is another thing, and then
Yeah,
shipping is another thing, and then it goes to the warehouse, and then it goes to fulfillment, and that's another thing, and all of those things are, every project
but yeah.
moves forward. Every project is moving forward. No projects is stuck, but like they're all sort of like it's the asterisk. There's an asterisk after the nothing, right? Like nothing has happened. Uh, anyway, do you want to talk about? I mean, since we're talking about that, do you want to talk about any details about
Oh, yeah.
the stuff that you've been
The
up
like
to?
with like Garbage and Glory specifically, I think last time we'd gone through and I discussed that there had been stuff that had been sent to the manufacturer, and like when we sent our files and stuff to the manufacturer, like I said, there's all of these other steps, right? So the manufacturer will take something and they'll validate, verify that all the files are in the right format, that everything is like all the colors are where they need to be, that the bleed and everything on each image is where it's supposed to be. And normally your graphic designer catches all this stuff, but again, they always go through and do another run and do another check, and then they do that for all of it, and then they'll have engineers sit there and say, okay, well, here's the template that we're going to use to fold for your insert, here's what your wrap is going to be, and all that kind of stuff. And so all of those steps were happening with all of the stuff that we had sent with Garbage and Glory, like all of our dice stuff, our card stuff, the card box. And actually, real quick, Matt, talk for 1 second.
Oh, okay. I'll talk.
Into the
Yeah.
van.
Uh, right. I mean, this card box has
Okay.
been sort of a new thing for us because it's a two box,
Right.
because you've got to have garbage and you glory for garbage and glory. So we're doing
And
two boxes.
and so that's one of those things that we went through too, is we were like, okay, when we first thought about it, we were like, okay, well, let's just have like a magnetic deck box side by side is
Oh yeah,
divided. Like,
just
yeah,
have
right.
that.
But like, you know, uh so Starling Games, who does Everdell, they had a playing card deck for Everdell, which was beautiful, right? Which is a magnetic deck box. I really like
Hmm.
it. The cards are great, and you got your little magnetic closure. Boom. And I was like, great, let's do one of these, except let's do it double and just have a little divider in it. Well, when we started talking about that with the manufacturer, and we've included some of this on our updates, the manufacturer gave us a template we built from it, and so that we have this, our manufacturer will send us blank proofs, right? So they send you this box, which is according to your specifications, and they say, this is what we're going to produce. Is that what you want? And so you have a very you can hold it, very tactile, right? They have all of your cards and everything, and they have the divider, right? This is magnetic closure, right? This is what the Garbage and Glory decks are going to be in. And when we got this, there was question, right? Like they have provided us sample cards so many times that I didn't even open these because I know what our card stuff is, I know what our card texture is, I know what our card weight is. But our insert, you'll see it's wider, right? We were expecting just like one strip of cardboard. And so they did another mock-up of that and sent me a video of that in the factory. Like, here's what it looks like. And, you have some room right here where the cards can move. Um, and that was one of the things that we discussed. We were like, oh, okay. This and the added depth to the box allows all of the Garbage and Glory cards to be sleeved. Yes, they are standard playing cards. Yes, you can use them as standard playing cards, but through the course of playing Garbage and Glory and playing campaigns, you might damage your cards or whatever. So having them sleeved is an option that some people may want. One thing that we also had, like, we will have some printing here on this part of the box, and this insert will be printed. Um, but they made us a different version of it, which was shorter and less, or I'm sorry, it was less deep, less wide, right? And then they provided a different insert, so we got to compare the two. This is ultimately the one that we decided to stick with. Um, and the cool thing is, they also had sent us our production proofs of our raccoon dice that will be used for Garbage and Glory. Ah, dropped one. And uh, just because I am the way that I am, you can actually take this insert out and you can store your dice under that insert, uh, which was really fun. I was poking around. I was like, oh, that's cool. Now, one thing that they will be providing and that I asked for specifically, this is just a little added cost for us, is that we will have foam inserts on top of these cards when you get them. So whether you want to sleeve your cards or not, they won't be sliding around in the box and everything like that. So it's yeah, it's just something that will be included in that box. All of these steps are steps that take time. Each one of the engineers are doing that, and if we ask for additional options, they provide that. And but now all of that stuff has been solidified, finalized, and that's all in manufacturing. The book itself, The Garbage and Glory, the PDF has been sent out. It is actually available for purchase on Drive-Thru RPG. If you were not a backer, you can go buy it right now, and you can have everything you want to play the game. Um, and then but that's all. That was in production. That was in editing and layout. Actually, it wasn't in layout, was it? It was in that amorphous place, right? There was still edits and layout like still happening. That's
Yeah,
all
I don't
done.
remember at exactly when we were finalizing
Yeah,
anymore exactly what stage we were at.
I know it's all a blur, but
Yeah,
that's
it's
done,
been
and that
being
book
worked on for a while.
is being manufactured.
Right.
So Garbage and Glory, like now it's just
Yeah,
they have their
you're,
marching orders. Everything is finalized. They're hitting on all cylinders on that one. Additionally, we had heard. I just got the email this morning that our blank proofs for Herd are on the way. Right. I got the FedEx tracking number. They're on the way from the factory. And again, that's just going to be a blank box with our card count and our insert and um, the only productionized thing that is being sent to that proof is we will have the herd playmat. in hand. And so that will be cool to show off. I'll take pictures of that and post that
We
on
got like
her.
tokens too, right? Are there tokens in Herd for
Oh
the
yeah,
armor and stuff?
there are so there'll be the cards, there'll be the token sheets, so with all the punch board and everything. There's an insert that has there's an art print insert that is in Herd. So all of that will be in that box and in the blank for the rule book, right? They're making sure that all the components are there and they're what we expect and everything fits in the box, etc. So for that in the expansion. Right now, the last thing they are waiting on from us, when they were doing their checks and they were doing their color checks and art checks on all of the files that we sent, again, our we would put it through all of our paces and our graphic designer, finalized files and sent them. In their checks with the engineer, there was one file. It was actually the foil wrapper for the promo pack, where they were like, this art needs to be a higher resolution. It needs to be in, this other resolution. And so we had to go back to the artist, and the artist had to redo that piece of art. Which Jan was great. Jan knocked it out in like on a Sunday afternoon and sent it over. It looks great, and I'll actually be when I post that art of um, the playmat, I'll actually drop that image that Jan put in there as well because it's a cool piece. It's an alternate piece of the Tyrannosaur for the promo pack,
Hmm,
and we used
nice.
that as the foil wrapper. It's a really cool piece.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
so that just needs to be dropped onto the foil template and have the other assets, layered on there, and then we can finalize that and send it. That's gonna take them
That's the
that
1% of the
yeah,
process.
that's
It's
like the 0.1%.
98 to 98.5% complete, you know.
And and that one is if anything was gonna go wrong, right? Like that is the one I would want to go wrong because it's a foil wrapper, right? It's
Sure.
not like,
Sure.
oh no, your box size is too small for literally every component you made, or
Right.
whatever. Like,
Right,
oh,
right.
you have to change the art on a foil wrapper. Great.
Right.
Perfect.
I mean, everything takes time. Everything takes time. It's all management.
Okay.
This is Brandon's job. What Brandon
Okay.
does.
And I was watching because I pay attention to a lot of the hassles and issues that other companies run into, especially companies that I like and I support through my own, you know, capitalist spending,
Nerdiness.
right? Right. I'm going to give my dollars to companies that I like.
Hmm.
So like
Yeah.
Roxley, who makes Dice Throne, I was watching their 2025 their their look ahead.
Hmm.
They had dropped a recording today, and one of the things they were talking about is they did Dice Throne Marvel, they did an X-Men Dice Throne, and all of that is being fulfilled, and they've had a lot of issues that they've been going through. They also had a more recent like Dice Throne thing with some spooky characters and stuff, but all those were their property. But they're having issues or had been having issues with their licensed things because the licensor was the holdup. You have to every single time you license anything, you have to go through approvals,
Sure.
and every approval has various steps, and it can be a hassle. So even they were saying like, okay, there are things that we have learned from our successes with Dice Throne that we said, well, if we use our own IP, then we don't run into like roadblocks that are out of our control.
Hmm.
And I thought that was some great insight. They've built a really strong community. They have organized play and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But then they said, okay, we might revisit licensed stuff in the future, but for right now, the next few things we put out will be our characters
Yeah.
and these formats. And I thought it was really cool. right before we started this. I mean, I'm like two-thirds of the way through the video. I'm
Mm,
excited to see what else they do, but
yeah. Well,
um, yeah,
I mean,
and they're
that's a
not the only
whole
one.
sure. I mean, and that's a whole other I don't know. That's a whole other like thing. I've talked
Yeah,
to people about licensing before in other episodes on this channel, um, and it is a whole other thing, and it is sort of like we've not exactly well, I mean, I think we've avoided it, but only because we are not big enough to attract anyone's attention, really, in
Huh.
that respect. Um, we have to get a bit bigger, I think, yet before we can manage like the kind of scale and
Yeah,
I mean, what are of like a of actual media popular IP that is coming from a TV show or something like that. Like that's
right.
sort of beyond our scale,
And it's also
it
like
but it's also then what you're saying, like maybe it's a bit of a albatross type situation, right? Where it's like now you work for them, in some respects.
you have to like everything has to go through them. I mean, I at GAMA this year, right
Mm,
across from us was Palladium Books, who recently we funded the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, excuse me, role-playing game.
hmm
Every bit of art that they had, um, even some of the older stuff that they had, all had to go through approvals, and anything that was from Paramount, right? Like any of that stuff, that of course that's just standard,
Yeah.
standard practice. And um that's that, right? I mean, that's not an industry secret, that happens. And every time you license something, there's a an expected return, right? Like a guaranteed return. So it's like, sure, you can go
Well,
run this Kickstarter and hopefully you make $1 million, but we're going to get $400,000 of that,
right.
right? Or whatever that is, whatever that percentage is, plus a percentage of whatever you sell. So again, yeah, sure. Do we want to make a licensed game? You sure can.
Yeah.
Um, but
It,
there's a whole world that comes with that.
Well, and I mean that's what I'm saying. It's like a whole other video, but it's like a thing
Yeah,
that
that's
we're
right.
always it's a thing we're always keeping an eye on, but then it's also sort of like uh, I don't I it, it comes with its own host of challenges, which we are seeing other companies deal with, which is what you just talked about. So,
And the licenses that I would want, like nobody is grabbing after. So,
well, hey,
that might be open later.
sure, sure. We're we're always it's always an option in the future. Um so it's not really production, I guess, but the it is kind of production. It's on the other side of things, right? So also in the last 3 months, I all since January, we have contracted an artist for an upcoming board game that we're working on Light Speeders. So Bill
Yep.
Lasic's board game. I think we've mentioned that
Yep.
before. So that's now has an artist attached.
That
It's
art. Do you want to say who that artist
I
is?
mean, I think we can like
Good.
it's a for real
It
like
is a
contracts for
for real
signed,
thing, and
right?
it's contracted.
Yeah. Brenda Ho, of famous for wearing wearing that stressor from her right there.
Yep.
Uh, famous for her work with uh, Weird Works,
Weird Works.
the Eldritch Overload deck and the Empress deck of and then they've got a ton of other prints over there. They did a Goblin game this year at Weird Works, so
Yeah.
uh,
Eldritch Overload and the Empress decks they're absolutely gorgeous.
oh
They're
yeah, they're
if
gorgeous.
you're
And
into if you're into tarot or um yeah, the decks are just awesome.
right. The Eldritch Overload deck has sort of I mean, it's a, I don't know. I never played Shadowrun. Is it Shadowrun? But it's like, it's, it's, you've got goblins and you've got Oni and you've got, people with tails and horns. And
It reminds me a
also
lot
they're
of
all wearing like cybernetic implants and
yeah,
riding around in sky cycles. And, you know,
yeah.
it's a real cyberpunky kind of vibe, but also it's got these fantasy creature elements to it.
It reminds me of the most recent Kamigawa set for Magic the Gathering, the one that
Mm,
saw like futuristic Kamigawa, all like laser swords and cyber samurai and stuff like that.
sure, sure.
So
It's a real,
it's a real
it's a,
vibe.
it's a virile vibe. It's a strong look. So, Lightspeeders is a racing game, path building, path denying, tile placement, racing game. How long can you keep your car running on the track as it fills up with these paths? It's like Snake, the glorified Snake, competitive Snake. Um,
Competitive snake. I love it.
uh, but Brenda bringing her art style to that will be pretty great. We also have, I think we mentioned the artist before, but we also have an artist in place for Precious Things, which is the
Yep.
upcoming Dragon game. We've seen some of the early sketches there from Lily Higgs, and really zeroing in on a great look for that game. Lucas Zellers, the author, is he's like, oh, I love it. So it's like great. It's things are happening in that direction. And another game that's been being worked on is Beach Episode with Jess Geyer, and we also have an artist in place for that. JCS Florindo is the artist. You can find them on they've got all the places, right? A Tumblr and a active on various Discords, and they've got an Instagram and stuff like that. Really cool, different working in different styles, which we're really excited to bring them onto that project and have, the sort of because the whole thing of Beach Episode is that it's to fit into any game. So like different genres, different looks for different genres is I think what we're really excited about. So again, like there's no art to show yet, only
Yeah.
some sketches and some contracts signed, but it's like work. This is work. This is work in the background. These are things that are happening. Um,
By the next one of these, we'll have a lot more stuff to show.
Oh yeah, I will be so happy to share some of these pieces as they get completed. You know this, right? Do you ever
Yeah.
see our Instagram? I've been sharing like Renaissance paintings
Yeah.
as proxies for like these the coming art for like anytime I have to talk about precious things or whatever. I've got this St. George slaying a dragon piece from the High Middle Ages that's like uh you know it it's just a placeholder, but like soon we'll have actual art. Working with artists and developing art commissions and stuff like that is such a joy. So it's been a pleasure to do that over the last few months to get those artists in place for the games that are, the games are also happening as far as writing and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's good. It's good times. Uh, so you want to talk about, you mentioned GAMA already. Do you want to talk about GAMA Expo that we went to back in February, about a month
Yeah.
ago?
I mean, Gamma's great when it and you know it was here in town in Louisville,
Yeah.
Kentucky again, which is really great because I get to sleep in my own bed, right? Uh, but it's always good to see industry friends and good to see what other people are coming out with and releasing for the year or plans that have been like tweaked or revamped for things that were like popular lines that you may have liked a while
Mm,
ago.
mm,
Personally, one of my favorites that was War Machine that used to be Privateer Press. It was picked up by
mm.
Steamforged Games, and I also love the Epic Encounter series by Steamforged. Being able to see some of that stuff that in the future of those lines was really cool. Um, but the you get to talk to some of these people that you don't necessarily have the ability to at other cons like Origins or Gen Con because you're busy, they're busy, and everything. But
Right.
this is more of a like, yeah, I'm going to go to Steamforge's booth and we're going to chat about some of this stuff after I had like gone to their keynote speech or whatever. Um and then you also can go in and say, okay, well, I want to learn about a particular topic. I think the one that I was most interested in this year from a production standpoint was like reducing the environmental impact of
Mm,
games,
mm.
right?
Yeah, that was a good
Um,
panel.
it was a very, very good panel. The people who were involved were very informed and knowledgeable of the topic, which is what you expect from an industry event like that. And it really made us think about some of the things that we could do. I mean, like I was showing you in here, right? The each one of these cards, right? This has a cello wrap, right? A shiny cellophane plastic wrap.
Hmm.
Well, in Europe, a lot of the games that are manufactured there have a paper wrapper, fully biodegradable uh, paper wrapper. Um, it's not only, I'm sorry, not biodegradable, it's compostable, uh,
Right, 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 right.
which is a distinction that was made, which I didn't even. I mean, yes, I know the distinction between those two words, but never thought about that from a manufacturing standpoint.
Right.
And um, I think one of the things that has stood out to me um, for a few years we went to dinner with a friend at PAX Unplugged, and our friend Josh said,
Yeah.
who worked on Garbage and Glory, Josh Heek, he said, we make garbage. Like that is what our industry does. We make trash, right? You get your box, you open up your game, take all the cellophane off of that, unwrap all the cellophane off of your cards, you throw that away. You then punch out all the stuff from your punch board and you take your punch board and you throw that away, right? All of this stuff. And I was like, he's not wrong.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, it was a really cool thing. I'm glad that Gamma offered that speech and or
Well,
that
it's the panel
panel.
was they're like the gamma board. It's on a board level. What is it? It's like what is their working group or I don't know
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
name
yeah.
of the thing is, but there's a sustainability group that's who was paneling. So like they're
Yeah. And they were looking for volunteers, and that's one of the things that have on my to-do list is to reach out and talk about, serving on that in that capacity because I would love to learn more about that and be able to incorporate this stuff into our production, especially as we move into um, other things,
yeah, more and more board games,
more and more board games. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
So
it's great.
it was great. That was my favorite thing. There's of course there's always more to talk about, but like Matt, what was
Sure.
your thing that you really really liked about Gamma? Where you
Yeah,
were?
uh yeah, I mean from the like learning paneling side, I got to give a panel again this year, like I did last year. I got to be with Zev Schlesinger of Play to Z Games, basically an industry titan, and we set it up as a Q&A mostly so people could, because it's such a broad topic. We were talking about
So people
narrative
could queue
design
and you
for
could A.
games. Hmm?
So
Oh
people
yeah.
could queue and you could A.
Yeah, yeah, because it's such a broad topic. Like, how do you write for games? And it's like, well, I, I don't know. What do you mean by that question? And then we'll narrow it down. And so, I got my feedback from the panel, from the leadership, and there's some things that we could have done differently, which is always the case. But in general, people liked hearing from Zev and I, which is pretty cool to be part of that.
Yep.
Which thanks to the creative side, the creator track is much expanded this year. Last year it was they had creator day on like the day zero of the con, and that's when all of those panels were set up for creators, to pitch stuff and then open pitching and then also like advice on pitching and talking about mixing board games and tabletop or all tabletop board games and RPGs together. But then this year, the creator tracks were throughout the whole time. It was the creator panels. Um, so I really liked that. Um, it was fun to hear from the panels, like what I think we went to what retailers wish that publishers knew
Oh, that one was
panel.
another good one.
I think that was another good one. It was they had three retailers who were, every day stocking stuff on shelves, every day out opening boxes of stuff from distributors, every day talking to customers. That's literally the in some respects the business end of the business, right? That actually meets with the customers. And on a day-to-day basis. Like we may go to six cons a year, but like that's only 20 days in a year when we're directly talking to customers, Um, the people who run retail are the people who are really making that difference. And so, that there isn't necessarily a particular action item necessarily to take away from that panel, but it was interesting to hear like what their expectations are, what their challenges are, you know. I guess
Yeah,
stuff like I think maybe the most actionable thing that was in that panel was if you want to do holiday promotion stuff, you have to have that done before October
yeah,
because they order extra throughout the summer to have extra on hand for the end of the year shopping season. So if you're sending out a message in November that you are going to have a cool thing available in December, they're not going to order it because they've already ordered their winter stock, you know.
yeah,
And just hearing that about how early that timeline is, I think that's definitely an actionable thing. Not that we're not that we're going to produce like, you know, the Santa Claus version of you know, doggos or something anytime soon, but like, you know, just hearing that sort of, you know, from another point of the industry, like I don't know what their schedules are like. I don't know what they how they work, but like that's the thing that I took away. It was like um as an example of like things that I don't ever think about, you know.
yeah. It was
Uh
one of the things I also really liked was being able to interface with designers and creators. There was it wasn't like a speed dating event, right?
it was sort of a speed dating
But it
event.
was kind of like that, but it wasn't organized. It wasn't organized sort of like that, where there was like feedback cards and things in that regard. Um, but there was an opportunity
It
for a
was
lot of creators to like board game, card game creators, and one or two RPG creators to like
hmm
sit down and kind of um, kind of pitch their game or kind of show you about their game, show you their components or what they're trying to do, and to solicit feedback from a variety of people in the industry.
Yeah.
Matt and I just kind of, we had a couple other things that we could have potentially gone to, and it was like, oh, well, let's check out this room. And I'm really glad we did. Kathleen
It,
Mercury was running that, and
yeah.
it was a really cool event. And she
It,
already has ideas to improve it next year. But I was really encouraged by the amount of industry folks who came and provided feedback, and from the designers that came and spoke with us later about the feedback that they received. So there was value there.
mhm.
I think there was a lot more value there than like that than the designer space that was available in the previous year. Um, you know, I got to meet a couple people. There were some things that I was personally really excited about. There was one that I saw was like, it was immaculate. I was like, I don't understand why you are here. Like, this is phenomenal, right?
You talking about the
Uh,
Shackleton one that
the Shackleton one,
that
right?
you just you talked about it every day after you saw it?
It was phenomenal. It was great. I mean, it was a escape room. It was a Shackleton expedition escape room game. I think it was Escape Mail Games, I think is the company
That
that
sounds
made
right.
it. And they had originally started as like, we're going to send you a letter and we're going to send you a puzzle in the mail, right? That
hmm
was their gimmick, right? But this Shackleton game that they
Long
made,
about 2020 is when they started.
right, right. And it was just great. And they had been crowdfunded and manufactured and everything like that. And they were looking to, I think they were like looking to like partner with another company in the future
Hmm.
for that or other games. I don't know, but it was gorgeous. I loved that. But I also got to meet designers who had small little fun games. I actually have one right here on my desk. I'm not gonna to show it off, but it's I have their sell sheet in the game right there, and there you got to this other the person's partner is a graphic designer. We're looking to expand our graphic designer stable, and it also is an artist. It was a great opportunity to
Yeah.
network and provide feedback. And that's where I think the value of Gamma and other industry groups like that, like really um, really shine.
Yeah. Yeah. I I think I agree. I mean, it is sort of it's always exciting to be in that environment where people are creating things and even the like pure business people that you have the opportunity to talk to, like they're in the business of making games. So like they like games and they play games, you know. Um Almost
Oh,
all I've rarely met somebody who's just pure numbers, product could be anything. I don't care. I'm just here to talk about,
they've
you
only met
know,
two in the I've only met two in the industry.
um, most of the people that you talk to just they like games, even if they are, you know, the business manager or even if they are the one responsible for marketing or whatever. I mean, they want to market games. If they wanted to market other things, they'd be in a different industry. You know, they're in this industry because they like games. And so it, you know, it is fun to be in that environment and it does feel like being in a rarefied atmosphere to some extent, right? Because you're with other people who are making games or have made games and are looking to sell them or have published several things and are looking to publish the next thing, you know.
Well,
And
that's the
there
I
is
think the
sort of
number one
like a
thing that we say, that you and I have told people when they're like, well, as a designer, what can I do to, to improve or to improve designs, or what can
mm,
I do to break into the industry, or what can I, the number one thing I tell people is play games,
mm,
right? Like if you have a design and you're like, oh, this is great, and someone says, oh yeah, that this mechanic is similar to X, Y, and Z, you can kind of see these other games that do these things, right? And maybe you can get ideas from that, or maybe you can expand something that you're working on. And if these people are like, I don't know what you're talking about,
mm,
or they're like, I don't really have time to play games, I'm really designing or whatever,
yeah.
you're like, no, no, no. Like, you have to play games if you're going to make games.
Yeah, you could make games, but like there is sort of that not double think to it, but like there is that sort of like obviously the side of the industry that we are on, or the creative hobby that we're on, is the side that is trying to be that is an industry, right? There is throughput and we are not just talking about games. You could design interactions and never consider whether there's a history or a context for those designs or whether or not they're manufacturable. You know, one of the people that I met in the hall, and you know, I'm not gonna say them. I try to be obscure because I don't want to like throw them under the bus or anything like that. But they had this really neat prototype that they'd constructed, and I can't see how it could ever be manufactured. You know,
Mm.
and I mentioned that. Uh, that was sort of the majority of our conversation was like does it have to work this way? Because no one, you can't make this, you know? Um, and they were kind of
Yeah,
slowly beginning to realize after everyone had told them that was a thing. And I mean, you could manufacture it, but like
cost
but
effectively is a
right,
different.
but and it's not like like a crokinole board, which has to be made by a carpenter. You know, it was
Right.
less than that, but still, it was like, you know, is the game that you have sort of worth that kind of handmade thing to the general audience? And I think no, but you know, that's for them to decide how to go forward and if they can, you know, um, anyway, yeah, I mean, there's games and then there's like designing games that are publishable and, you know, gonna have a wider reach, you know.
Well, and
And
there were, gosh, more than a few games I I played or saw, that it's funny. We had an interaction at the like the meet and greet thing. Um, and I know, Matt, you had spoken with this one particular designer. They came up to our booth and spoke to us. And then later, I saw this designer again, and they're playing a prototype with other designers just in the hall, which I thought was cool. Other designers, talking to each other, but like that prototype that they had, I was like, oh, that game looks awesome. Like I would, whether or not Wedding Games would ever produce that game, I mean,
Mm,
I would it would definitely be a game that fits our wheelhouse. But it was also one of these things it's about like interpersonal relationships and other dynamics and everything. And it was like, as a gamer, like I would buy that game
hmm.
whether or not we manufactured it, right?
Right.
But I personally, Brandon Ayton, would buy that game. And um and it was great. And then later I saw that person like a third time or a fourth time just walking by uh the booth of the op, and he was like, "Oh, hey, I'm getting ready to play Flip 7. You want to learn Flip 7 with this guy's going to teach it to me." And so we played Flip 7, and it was great. But he like called me out by name, "Brandon, come over here." I was like, and it was
Yeah.
just one of those experiences where it just uh reminded me that Gamma is about networking.
Mm.
It's about networking with designers, networking with publishers, networking with other ancillary industry folks, and retailers. Like it is all about connections, um, and it was just a great experience.
Because it's like
Great,
the who you gonna call thing. Like, like
exactly.
if I've met that designer or that artist and that person who I had a great interaction with on a panel, had questions about, you know, and then you have their contact information because you had those interactions. The next time you have those questions, you're like, hey, I know who to call,
Yeah.
and um, or now it's time. I'm sure we both got stacks of here's my stack of cards that I haven't.
Well, yeah.
These are my action items. Let's see. I haven't gone through all of them yet. I got about three or
Uh,
four more to go through before I've
yeah.
done all the action items that I came away from Gamma with. Um,
Yeah.
so it is sort of engaging and exciting and I don't know. Legitimizing is like a weird kind of word, but I do feel like that's a big part of it, right? You go and it's the event where like everybody's there to talk about like doing this seriously, and how to make it work. And there's lots of pieces to that, from the design to the publishing to the distribution to the international sales. There's all kinds of different levels to like making it work, getting this work done. But obviously you need all the pieces, right?
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, Gamma was great. And I think, as I always view Gamma, well, now I view Gamma, right, as kind of like the the earliest kickoff of like convention season, right? It's months ahead of the other things that we normally go
Sure.
to, but it's like, okay, holidays are over, you've had time to make your New Year's resolutions. Boom, Gamma. Oh yeah, this is what we're about, right?
Right.
And then it's prep for the next thing. So our next thing is our first time going to PAX East in Boston, and that's going to be in May. I'm excited about that. And then after that, we have Origins, which we just did our booth placement for with
Yeah.
531. Woo!
531 at Origins.
And it's so I think that'll be great. And
We
then,
may be able to know somebody else has posted their PAX East number, so we may be able to find out what our PAX East number is. So
oh, well,
just as
cool.
a complete aside, like we
As
may
a
have,
complete aside, I should check that. I haven't seen it in my email, but doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
right.
Um, the eh, yeah, Origins and PAX, they all of the PAX shows run differently than the other shows that we normally go to
Yeah,
and
yeah.
have a standard thing. And
Well, they're not 50 years old like Origins is and Gen
and
Con is.
um so yeah, and then we have, Gen Con. We paid for everything for Gamehole Con up in Wisconsin again, and
Hmm.
PAX East is already taken care of as well. So we are set for the year for our full convention schedule. And then our production schedule is also, uh, you know, it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. It keeps going.
Like cats.
Yeah, it doesn't stop. It keeps going. Yeah, you laid out the con season. I think the to elaborate slightly on your list, going to PAX East is an experiment for us. Like we've never been there before. We hear that it's a good con. Lots of people are there. It's a very large con, but it's a video game con, but many people who play video games also play tabletop games. So, um, looking forward to that as like a new experience. But I guess expectations are nil because we don't know, right? Um, and then Origins is going to be our what we're calling our release party for for Garbage and Glory. Everything should be in hand by then, uh, and we are going to, it's going to be the first time that it's for sale. You know, knock on wood. But and that's great because that's where we met Sam, Sam Brick, the artist for Garbage and Glory. We met him there, so we're looking forward to that being like the release show. And then we're doing kind of a big push at Gen Con for Garbage and Glory. Sam's going to come be at our booth again, like he was at PAX Unplugged at the end of last year, and you'll be able to get Garbage and Glory prints, or Sam to sign your book or whatever. We're gonna have that at Gen Con this year. So that's some of our big exciting plans for the year.
Yeah.
And
And
then
I'm very stoked about that.
yeah, it all should be great. It should be great. Uh, I didn't look when we started recording, so I have no idea how long we've been talking. We do want to talk about cats a little bit. Do you have anything else to talk about the year or conventions?
Um, Other than the fact that I do know our gamma number or our
Or
PAX East number.
ooh, what's our
Yeah.
PAX East number?
It is booth number 10082.
10082. All right.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool sounding number.
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't, I'll have to get on the website, look at a map. I don't know what that is in relation to anything else. We'll find
Yeah, I
out.
know. Neither I would the exhibit hall looks very large and it'll be interesting to check it out. Like you said, this is our first time going. It's kind of an experiment.
Hmm.
Uh like it is a video game con, but it's also slammed, right? It's that so that's what we're looking forward to.
Right. Uh, cool, cool. Uh, all right. So as we're recording on this day, we just launched Cats yesterday, OMG Cats. That's our first crowdfunding campaign of the year. Um, Steffi Devon and Liz Tripratical have written a very fun book. It's if you've heard us talk about it before, if you haven't heard us talk about it before, it's our companion book to Heck and Godogos, family-friendly cat game, where your skills use D6s, and that's for anything that's not alive. Your sniffing, your knowing, your flexibility, all that kind of stuff. And then if you get into conflict with any other living creatures, then you use your card set to resolve the conflict in a very simple and narrative way. So a conflict with something may take 3 charm to resolve it, or possibly it's it's just a sad antagonist. He just wants a friend. So if you come in with 3 charm, great. As a colony of cats, you play your 3 hearts cards, you've charmed the thing, no more problems. You've resolved the conflict. But if you don't have hearts or you want to be mean, you can attack the cat. But maybe it takes like 7 diamonds to defeat the threat, but
Right.
like that's a choice you can make and you can narrate that. If you've got 7 diamonds as a group, you can discard those cards, and each of you discarding your cards. I attack this way. I get up on the thing and I hiss and I'm like, I go in for a bite on the ankle, like boom, 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 boom. You've played your 7 diamonds. You've resolved the conflict because you defeated the thing and it ran away or whatever. It focuses on the narrative with that sort of like, which approach as a cat do you take? Um, Again, same way that Doggos works, but the names for the cats are Hearts is Charm, Diamonds is Hiss, because that's the attack. You hiss before you strike. Uh, Clubs is the physicality, same as in Doggos, but we call it Zoom. And then they named, and kind of my favorite is the Spades is Dismiss rather than be friendly, as Doggos do with a spade. Cats just find a way for this not to be their problem. I dismiss this problem by playing some spades. So micro settings, sci-fi Venus, space exploration, fantasy realms, two different fantasy realms, one decidedly more light and cheery and friendly, and one a little darker, grimmer. So lots of fun stuff on offer, and it's going well. The crowdfunding is going well.
Yeah, it's right now uh we're we're almost at 65%, right? We've been not even 36 hours, right? Um, it's going strong. I'm very excited about the trajectory of this, and it'll be good to see how this plays out.
Oh,
I love the fact that it is compatible with doggos, right? And people can, people have been picking up like the whole set, like all of cats, all of doggos.
mm,
One thing that we are doing that we had not done, right? We have
yeah.
we have like Psychic Kids dice and Never
Oh,
Going
yeah.
Home dice, and we were making, dice for cats, and we have, the raccoon dice, all of this
Yeah, yeah.
stuff. We had never made dice for doggos. We had thought about it, but it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we're making doggos. We have these stretch goals and these cards. Well, with that, we actually took those stretch goals and made an adventure book called Hecken Doggo's Fetch Quests, but we never made dice.
Hmm.
So this will be an opportunity for us to make dice for doggos, and this also is an opportunity um, for us to try a new model. Like for cats, we're not doing stretch goals like we had done in the past with just we reach this, then we unlock this adventure, and this we unlock this adventure.
Mhm.
We actually built everything into the Kickstarter to just say, like, look, if we meet this and we're funded, yeah, you get cats, but you also get the OMG Cats Curious Yarns adventure book, right? It's a we had already taken it out. We took 5 people that we've worked with in the past. We know their work, we like their work, and they had each of them pitch 2 different scenarios to us, and those will we'll have a collection of 10 adventures in that Curious Yarns book. Um, it's just a way for us to kind of streamline that, and so and to uh, uh, enhance the speed at which we can actually produce and manufacture some of this stuff, right?
Right. I think it's one of those, like we've talked about this on these sort of quarterly check-ins before, where, something like Never Going Home, which had, I believe it was 22 stretch goals unlocked, featuring the work of 19 different people. I believe that's the correct numbers there, and it's all sort of like only when the campaign is done and that that's how many got unlocked, can you then start making sure that they're turning their stuff in. Some people had their ideas in beforehand, but a lot of people are like, they waited to know whether or not they'd been activated before they started working on it, which is totally fair. But then it
Sure.
just makes Never Going Home books came out last year, but the stretch goal collections are still in that long nebulous process of like one thing to fix here, one thing to fix there, and then they have to be, you know, laid out, and that's where they're at right now. And so that's a long time. That's a long time. So we started, some of the adventures are already done. Others of them are in progress. The Kickstarter has just launched yesterday, right? The goal is to have the text done by the end of the crowdfunding, rather than the end of the crowdfunding being the start of the writing process for these different writers.
Right.
So it is trying to speed up our production like Brandon said, but in working in a different way because months and months and months of managing the project afterwards is something that we've done a couple times in the last few years, and it's tiring, but also it's difficult. It's difficult to manage it as it happens that way. So
Yeah,
trying something different this time, and again, looks like it's working out. So
I'm looking forward to it, seeing how all of this plays out, and um, I um, I think it's gonna be really really well received. Um, it already is. People love cats,
people like
right?
cats.
So it's gonna be fun to see how they kind of take it and run with it, right?
I had uh I don't know if you saw this. Our buddy Robert Turk was like, "How about next? It's grrr badgers," and
He did say that. He
uh,
goes, and the whole game is parrots who wake up too early. Like,
it's inspired by.
it's inspired by parents who wake up too early.
Uh, yeah, um, yeah. I don't know. I mean, having mentioned Robert, he's got a crowdfunding campaign that I got to playtest last year. I'll mention it briefly here. Um, Vale of the Failed and Fallen is a PBTA game, Brandon's favorite. Um, and uh, I,
I'm
I'm
open to
joking.
giving it another shot.
Yeah. Jokingly, Brandon doesn't he hasn't yet been converted to the PBTA ways, but I think this one might do it if we can if you're hearing this on the day it drops, you I think we'll have moments to back it. Let me check the dates. Uh,
Yeah, like 7 days
I think it
from
I think
now
this drops on the day that this video comes out on the last day of that campaign. So
in the 48-hour bump.
yeah, within the last 48 hours. So hop to it if that sounds interesting. Well, I haven't even talked about it. It's you play adults who, as children, were in this fantasy realm, and you failed to save it because you shouldn't be sending like 6-year-olds after Dark Lords. Um, and one of your number died, and you got ejected from the realm, and then you grew up asking yourself, like, was that all a dream or whatever? Well, now, as an adult, you've been called back to the realm. You have reclaimed your relic. You've got your magical powers back that you had as a child, and but like the darkness has been messing up the realm for 20 years, and so
Yeah.
like the situation is worse, but you're not a child this time, and so it is inspired by themes of like sort of revisiting childhood and remaking your own stories of tragedy into something better is sort of the inspiration, but it does it in this very collaborative storytelling fantasy way where one of the things that I love about it is that you've got again, I'm saying this because I got to play test it and so I've played it. I know the tone that was being was being created by the game. You make up all this stuff at the beginning about like, oh yeah, the floating islands and the plane and of shimmering gems and like all of these different fantasy races that like, oh, we love the little goblin guys and we the frog people and and then like you roll dice randomly to determine whether or not all that stuff is destroyed, still alive, converted to darkness, like all of that. And it's just like I made this. It was so lovely. And it's like, yes, but now that has been turned into like your worst enemy because like all of the frog people now like are willing servants of the evil one, and like it's like, but they were my friends 20 years ago. And it's like, yeah, well, it's been a rough life for 20 years for them, like
Yeah. And you
um
abandoned them.
right, you abandoned them. Right. We dealt with some of that in our campaign where it was like people were mad. They're like, because we didn't win, and like, I don't know, it was
Mm.
yeah. So I think it's a great game. I think Robert's put together a beautiful book. If you're hearing about it now for the first time, go quickly to the crowdfunding page to back it. But anyway, that's my brief plug. All
I
right.
think I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah. Well, see, I, I have the playtest document. We can play it, Brandon, no matter what. Um, all right. That's that. I don't know if there's anything else that we need to talk about. We got our year set up. We know we were going to be working on going to cons, making cool stuff, fulfilling these last things, and then selling them, filling these last couple projects, and then getting them out there to the people. So
Right.
that's the
We, you know, we're like we said, we're going up to PAX East. Our it's going to be weird because the we've been in larger booths. We've been like 10 by 20 booths
mm, mm,
as we've gone through. But since this is an experiment, I'm taking a step back real quick. This is going to be an opportunity for us to okay, we're testing these waters, let's see how it goes. But in a 10 by 10 booth, it's like, oh man, we have a lot more stuff
sure. Then the last time we
in
were
a
in a 10 by
smaller
10.
like in a smaller space. So we're, as Matt said, we're taking this stuff and we're going out and and selling it and meeting people. It's you know you got to make it work. So
Right.
it'll be a fun exercise.
What a way
It's
to
a
think of it.
challenge.
Oh,
Uh,
you hardly ever back down from a challenge. So
especially if there's food involved.
yeah, that's we don't have enough that's the way to generate more social media content. You and you need to challenge people. Maybe that's the thing we can do this summer at PAX Unplugged, or not at PAX Unplugged, at Origins as part of Garbage and Glory. We can challenge people to like eat a trash amount of food, like or something like that. Like,
Oh,
can you eat more than the original? Like, who's the bigger trash panda,
who's
Brandon,
the bigger
or
trash panda?
here comes a new challenger? Like,
We go to we go to Pierogi Mountain and eat. You know,
climb the
we
mountain.
we climb the mountain.
That's
Gonna
buying one pierogi of all of their flavors and then
of
eating them
all of
all.
their flavors, right?
That's what I don't know if they call it that. Did they call it that or did we invent
No, they
that?
don't at all. No,
I think
that's
Alex Sprague may have invented that.
yeah.
That sounds like his kind of shenanigans.
So yeah, they've narrowed their menu. So sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna eat all those pierogies and some sauerkraut balls and some halushki. Let's do it.
Uh,
Let's make
all
it
right.
count.
We're this is such a unhinged way to end the episode here, but we're gonna have to talk about this like challenge Brandon to trash panda-ness. We'll see how that goes. All right.
I love it.
All right. Thanks for everybody for watching this video. If you've got questions about Gamma or if you've got like ideas for promotional stuff for both Herd and Garbage and Glory when we go to cons this year, let us know in the comments. We're here to, these videos are produced for us to kind of catharsis about a year, but also like we want to give an inside look into how making this particular kind of sausage works. So if you got
Yep.
questions, let us know, and we'll try to address that as we move forward. Brandon, thanks for your time. We'll see you around.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye.